5 True Disturbing Home Alone Horror Stories. Story 1. The Mysterious Phone Calls. In 2018, Emily, a college student, decided to spend her summer break at her parents' house while they were away on vacation. She looked forward to the peace and quiet, enjoying the solitude. However, her tranquility was soon shattered by a series of eerie phone calls. It started with a call at midnight. When Emily answered, there was nothing but static. She brushed it off as a prank, but the calls continued every night at the same time. The static was occasionally interrupted by faint, indistinct whispers. Emily grew increasingly anxious, but she tried to ignore it. One night, the phone rang earlier than usual. Emily hesitated but eventually picked it up. This time, she heard a chilling voice whispering her name. She slammed the phone down, her heart racing. She decided to call the police, but they could do little without a traceable number or concrete evidence. Emily's unease escalated when she noticed strange things around the house. Items were moved, doors she knew she had locked were found ajar, and she felt an inexplicable cold presence. She set up a camera in the living room, hoping to catch the culprit. Reviewing the footage the next morning, Emily's blood ran cold. In the middle of the night, a shadowy figure appeared in the frame, standing motionless at the foot of the stairs, staring directly at the camera for what felt like an eternity before disappearing. Terrified, Emily packed her bags and left the house immediately, staying with a friend until her parents returned. When her parents came back, they found no evidence of an intruder, but Emily never felt safe in that house again. The identity of the mysterious caller and the shadowy figure remains a haunting mystery. Story 2. The Footsteps in the Attic. In 2019, Mark, a single father, left his teenage son, Jake, alone for a weekend while he went on a business trip. Jake, an avid gamer, was excited to have the house to himself, planning a weekend of uninterrupted gaming sessions. However, his excitement turned to terror when he heard strange noises coming from the attic. It started with faint footsteps late at night. At first, Jake thought it was just the house settling, but the footsteps grew louder and more deliberate. Convinced someone was in the attic, Jake armed himself with a baseball bat and cautiously climbed the stairs to investigate. The attic was dark and filled with old furniture and boxes. Jake's flashlight beam swept across the cluttered space, revealing nothing out of the ordinary. He was about to head back downstairs when he noticed a small, makeshift bed in the corner, complete with a pillow and blanket. His heart pounded as he realized someone had been living in their attic. Terrified, Jake ran back to his room and called the police. They arrived quickly, searched the attic, and found evidence of someone living there: discarded food wrappers, a notebook filled with incoherent scribbles, and a few personal items. However, the intruder was nowhere to be found. The police suspected the squatter had been sneaking in and out of the house while the family was away or asleep. Mark cut his trip short and returned home immediately. Despite changing the locks and installing security cameras, Jake struggled to sleep, haunted by the thought of the unknown person who had been living just above his room. Story 3. The Face in the Window. In 2020, Sarah, a young professional living alone in a suburban neighborhood, decided to spend a quiet weekend at home. She enjoyed the peace and serenity of her house, often spending evenings reading by the large living room window that overlooked her backyard. One evening, as she was engrossed in a novel, she felt a sudden chill. Glancing up, she saw a face pressed against the window, staring directly at her. She screamed and the face vanished into the darkness. Heart pounding, Sarah called the police, who arrived quickly but found no one in her yard or the surrounding area. The officers assured her it was probably just a prank, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She installed extra locks and security lights around the house, hoping to deter any potential intruders. The following night, Sarah's worst fears were realized. She heard scratching noises at her back door. Grabbing her phone, she dialed 911 and stayed on the line with the dispatcher while she hid in her bedroom. The police arrived to find the back door slightly ajar, with clear signs of forced entry. They conducted a thorough search and found muddy footprints leading to the basement. Following the trail, they discovered a man hiding behind the furnace. He was arrested, and it was revealed he had been stalking Sarah for weeks, watching her through the windows and planning his break-in. Sarah was deeply shaken by the ordeal, moving to a new apartment with better security. The experience left her with lingering anxiety and the unsettling memory of the face in the window. Story 4. The Uninvited Guest. In 2021, Lisa, a recently divorced woman, moved into a quaint old house in a small town, looking for a fresh start. She loved the character of the house, despite its creaky floors and old-fashioned layout. However, her sense of security was shattered one night when she realized she wasn't alone. It started with small, seemingly innocuous things: lights she was sure she had turned off were found on, and items she knew she had placed in one spot were moved to another. Lisa chalked it up to stress and fatigue until one night she heard distinct, heavy footsteps coming from the hallway outside her bedroom. Terrified, she locked herself in her room and called the police. They arrived quickly but found no signs of forced entry or an intruder. The officers suggested it might be an animal or the house settling, but Lisa knew what she heard. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Lisa set up cameras around the house. The next day, she reviewed the footage and saw a figure emerging from a hidden crawl space behind the kitchen. The figure, a disheveled man, moved around the house with disturbing familiarity before retreating back into the crawl space. Lisa immediately called the police, who conducted a thorough search and found the crawl space entrance. Inside, they discovered the man, who had been living there undetected for weeks. He was arrested, and Lisa learned he was a drifter who had found his way into the house through an old, unused vent. Shaken but relieved, Lisa had the crawl space sealed and installed a sophisticated security system. The thought of the uninvited guest living in her home, watching her every move, left her with a lingering sense of unease. Story 5: The Shadow in the Hallway. In 2022, David, a young man living alone in an apartment complex, started experiencing strange occurrences. It began with odd noises at night, creaking floors, faint whispers, and the feeling of being watched. He dismissed these as the quirks of living in an old building until the night he saw the shadow. David had been working late on his computer when he noticed a dark shape in the hallway out of the corner of his eye. He turned, but it vanished. Uneasy, he went to bed but struggled to sleep, feeling a persistent sense of dread. Over the next few nights, the shadow reappeared, always just at the edge of his vision. Determined to catch it on camera, David set up his phone to record the hallway while he slept. The next morning, he reviewed the footage and saw the shadow clearly moving down the hallway, pausing outside his bedroom door. Terrified, David showed the footage to his landlord, who dismissed it as a trick of the light. Frustrated, David contacted a local paranormal investigator. The investigator conducted a thorough examination and discovered the apartment had a history of strange occurrences dating back decades. The investigator performed a cleansing ritual, and the disturbances ceased. However, the experience left David deeply unsettled. The shadow in the hallway, a dark manifestation of something unseen, remained etched in his memory. David eventually moved out, unable to shake the feeling that the shadow was still watching him, waiting for his return.